are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final. Back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Oh, hello guys. Did not expect that as I got on the air. So welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, May 6th. Didn't expect that right from the jump, so hopefully we can fix that and get back to the regular camera here. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of scrambling as I was getting ready to do the show. So hopefully we can get this right and get back to a full screen here. Yeah, I was not expecting that right from the jump. All right, so we're all good. So yeah, as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Before we get into what we're going to talk about for today, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. All right, so now that we got the Spider-Verse glitching of the camera out of the way, let's get into what we were going to talk about. So we're going to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Miami Dolphins. I'll get into that. Also, the Bills making a few signings, so I also wanted to talk about that as well. So some AFC East stuff. Actually, we'll get into more AFC East stuff in the second segment because we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers being a full go with OTAs, no limitations. Coming back from the Achilles injury, so we'll get into that. The Jets, a team I've talked about a lot, so we'll talk about that. Then, in the third part of the show, I'll talk about a couple of future Hall of Famers possibly coming out of retirement late in the season for a couple teams. Talk about J.J.Watt and Aaron Donald maybe coming back late in the season, possibly if the teams have an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl, or just if necessary. So we'll get into that. And then for the final part of the show, I wanted to talk about Saquon Barkley, him kind of opening up to what happened with the contract negotiations this offseason, or the lack of negotiations with the Giants, because I did bring this up briefly, but he was getting into it with fans on Twitter again about signing with the Eagles because he was courtside at the Knicks 76ers game, and I guess people are getting on him because he was with the Giants, now he's with the Eagles, and he's at a 76ers Knicks game. And yeah, so we'll get into what he had to say to some of those people and what he had to say about his negotiations with the Giants, or lack thereof. So with that being said, now let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Odell Beckham Jr. joining the Miami Dolphins. So this was something that has kind of been speculated because the Dolphins had interest. And at first, I think Tyreek Hill, he tweeted out that it was a done deal. And I think Odell tweeted back saying nothing's happened yet. So, kind of been waiting on if that's going to end up happening. He was one of the top free agents remaining, particularly at the wide receiver position. And the Dolphins do pick him up. Now, he's coming into a situation where he's not the number one option. He's not even the number two option. And he's looking for a place to play. Now, I did see a headline that he was getting interest from supposedly the Chiefs and the Bills. And if that's the case, I feel like those would have been better situations because the Bills, they're kind of they're trying to revamp their wide receiving core. The Chiefs as well. There's definitely more opportunities there. So I feel like, and you got a better chance to get to a Super Bowl. Well, especially with the Chiefs because they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. So I feel like if Odell was getting interest there, why not go there? I don't know. But that's his thought process, going to the Dolphins. Now, is the Dolphins a bad place to go? No. Because it is a good offense, and Tua does spread the ball around. Now, he kind of spams Tyreek Hill, of course, and how could you not? I mean, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and, you know, his speed is unbelievable. One of the fastest players in the NFL. So how could you not? But I don't know. I feel like if he wanted to get more targets, you're better off going to, like I said, either the Bills or the Chiefs. But that's just me. So with Odell, I kind of just wanted to go through his stats. Now I'm going to the Dolphins. He's kind of bounced around a little bit since the Giant days. Was traded to Cleveland. Spent some time with the Rams, won a Super Bowl with them, and then he was most recently with the Ravens. And with the Giants, he got off to such a great start. And he was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL at one point. And, he was a big part of their offense. But, injuries kind of plagued like his whole Giants career. He didn't play a full season with the Giants. He missed some time. Well, 2015, I know he was suspended at one point. Well, actually, yeah, because if you look, he did play 15 games. He was suspended because the whole thing with Josh Norman. He missed some time his rookie season with an injury. I played in all 16 games in 2016. Only played in 4 games in 2017 because I think he had the broken ankle. Right, I think that was 2017. 2018, he missed the final 4 games of the season. So, yeah, and then got hurt in 2020. Played most of the year in 2021, but he tore his ACL again against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. And I talked about this. He was one of the he could have won Super Bowl MVP. He looked like the best player on the field. And then he ended up getting hurt, unfortunately. Didn't play at all in 2022. And then with the Ravens, I know it's kind of cut off, but only had 3 touchdowns on the season. Over 500 yards receiving. He's not the same player. Now, can he still help a team out? Yeah, I think so. But he's not the same player. And he doesn't have to take on a big role with the Dolphins. He's that number 3 wide receiver right now. Because you have Tyreek Hill, of course, and then you have Jalen Waddle. And on top of that, the Dolphins are going to want to run the football a little bit. With Achane, with Mostert, and those guys. I know they also did draft a running back as well. So that's the other thing, too. So Odell is not going to be taking on a major role with this team. And I think, yeah, it's still a good spot for him, but I feel like if he really wanted to, I mean, maybe he doesn't want to win a championship. I mean, I think he still wants to, but he has that Super Bowl ring now. I think if he was more desperate and he didn't have that ring, then he probably would have maybe went to a team like the Chiefs, if the Chiefs did in fact have interest. So yeah, the deal is worth up to $8.25 million. And yeah, he's dealt with injuries. He's going to be that number 3 wide receiver. The last time he had 1,000 yards, you saw it. It was with the Cleveland Browns back in 2019. So, yeah, I mean, it helps the Dolphins out. I don't think it's something that, is a needle mover in terms of where they sit in the AFC, if you're ranking the teams. But I think Odell can help you out. He's a number 3 option. So, and he still can make plays. It's just not on a consistent basis. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this signing for the Dolphins. Again, another top remaining free agent off the, well, not top, but you know what I mean, from this last group of top free agents. He's now been signed because we're waiting on some other guys to sign too. I think the Cowboys and Stephon Gilmore, maybe they work on something to bring him back. I know I keep talking about Tyler Boyd and where he could potentially sign. Maybe he signs this week. We'll have to find out. So now with the Buffalo Bills, so they made a few signings actually. So they signed Chase Claypool, linebacker Deion Jones, and defensive end DeJuan Smoot to a 1-year deal. Now Claypool, his rookie season was pretty good. With the Steelers. 11 touchdowns, 62 receptions, 873 receiving yards. And he looked like he was going to be a really good player for the Steelers. But it just didn't turn out that way. Did not turn out that way. And eventually he got traded to the Bears. And then he actually was with the Dolphins recently, but didn't really make an impact on the team. So with Claypool, so like I said, actually in 2023, 8 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. So he actually did have a touchdown. Right now he's 25 years old. He's going to be 26 in July. But yeah, his stats just kept going down as the years went on. Like I said, 9 touchdowns in 2020. He had that 3-touchdown game against the Eagles in the COVID season, if you remember. But yeah, 2021, played in 15 games, 59 receptions, 105 targets, 860 receiving yards, only 2 touchdowns. So the production was still about the same from his rookie season, except he only had 2 touchdowns as opposed to 9. But yeah, then after that, a big drop-off because he missed some games. 8 games, 32 receptions, 311 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. Then in 2022, then got traded to the Bears that same season. No touchdowns, only 140 yards receiving. Then 2023, only 3 games played, 51 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. And yeah, that was it. That was with the Bears. That wasn't with the Dolphins. Because then he got traded to the Dolphins, 9 games, played 4 receptions, 26 yards. So, yeah, I mean, the Bills, they're looking for receivers. They're trying to revamp that receiving room. And does Claypool still have the talent? Yeah, I think so. But is the production going to be there? Who knows? Because with the Bills now, their wide receiving core going into next year. So you got Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Chase Claypool, Mac Hollins, Justin Shorter. They also signed Quintez Cephas recently too. He used to play with the Lions. But that's kind of what they're rolling with for next year. And Khalil Shakir played well towards the end of the year. Curtis Samuel is a good wide receiver. Keon Coleman, who they drafted with their, they traded they traded out of the first round into the second round, so they took him. And you got Claypool now, signed Matt Collins. So, I mean, listen, the Bills, they're still going to be a good team. It's just going to be different now without Stephon Diggs. So, and you got Josh Allen, and I think the Bills, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But, yeah, I mean, losing some guys, it's going to hurt, but I don't think they're all of a sudden just going to be this bad team. They did address the wide receiver position in the draft. They've added some guys. Now, is Chase Claypool and Matt Collins, are they needle movers? No. But, I think Curtis Samuel is a good player. And Khalil Shakir. Let's see. I mean, is he the number one wide receiver? Now, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what they're rolling with for next year. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about what the moves that these two teams made. Like I said, the Bills made a couple of other signings as well on the defensive side of the ball. So, Deion Jones obviously spent a lot of time with the Falcons. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. And with that being said now, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, give you an update on him as the Jets are gearing up for 2024. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Going to be cleared for OTAs, no restrictions later this month. That's according to head coach Robert Saleh. So this is what Saleh had to say on Friday. He said, I know he's had a couple prior engagements that he's taken care of, but he's here. He's working. I mean, the guy could still sling it. Obviously, he's still working through his rehab, but no issues on the trajectory on which he's going. This is also more on what he said. Well, it's naturally managed because of the Phase 1, Phase 2 part of it, but once Phase 3 hits, we're not anticipating any restrictions with what we can and can't do with him. So that's what Saleh said on the matter, and that's something that I think Jet fans could at least, you could be positive about that there's no restrictions. Rodgers is going to be a full go, and you figure that's the case. I mean, listen, this injury happened 4 plays into the season. Now, if this happened later in the year, well, yeah, then Rodgers might not be coming back right away to start the year. But he should be ready for Week 1, the way things are going. And, yeah, you got to take it one step at a time because, you don't want something to happen. I mean, that's why, the Jets, they went out, they addressed the offensive line both through free agency and the draft. They took a lineman with their first pick. And if Rodgers is healthy, I think he should have a good year. Now, I'm not expecting him to be the MVP. I was hoping for that last year to show everybody that he's still that guy, but Unfortunately, he got hurt. So I'm not going to... Now, I'm going to be positive about the Jets, like I've said numerous times, but I'm not going to be that positive where I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers is going to win MVP. I don't believe that. But I think he could go out there and put together a good season, a season that gets the Jets into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. I like that the Jets did address the offensive line. Now, you took some risks because you signed guys like Tyron Smith who have gotten hurt a lot the last few seasons. Actually, last year he was relatively healthy, but the season before that, he missed a lot of time. So that's why the Jets went and they drafted a lineman for depth, and he's going to be part of this line for years to come. Olu Fasanu. Still can't pronounce that name properly, but it's because I Goodell pronounced it differently, and then in other videos I see people pronouncing it. So we'll have to see, once we get to games how the broadcasters pronounce it. But yeah, it's again, name I still have trouble saying. Olu Fasanu or Fashanu. So it is what it is. But the Jets, they needed to prioritize fixing this offensive line. And they went out and did that. Now, you hope that these guys stay healthy, because you got to protect this quarterback. And if you don't, he's going to end up getting hurt again. And they took more risks because they went out and they signed Mike Williams, who has an injury history as well. And I know one of my friends was joking that, yeah, he'll be nice for 3 games and then get hurt. Now, you don't want to think like that because you want to hope that Mike Williams stays healthy. Because if Mike Williams stays healthy, I think he's a good wide receiver to have opposite of Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall should be good. With an improved offensive line, he should be even better. And another year removed from his ACL tear. So it really is hard for me to say that the Jets aren't going to be good. The two things that you could look at and say that's going to hold them back is going to be injuries and coaching. Because I was talking about this with one of my coworkers. Because we were saying, team's very talented. And he said coaching could get in the way. Now, I think if Rodgers is healthy, the deficiencies that they may have when it comes to coaching, I think he'll at least minimize those. He'll cover them up to a certain extent. But if he ends up getting hurt again, then those are going to be way out in the open. Because we know Robert Saleh can coach defense. But, the offense has been a problem since he was hired as the head coach for the Jets. And the reason they brought over Nathaniel Hackett to be the offensive coordinator was because of Aaron Rodgers. They could spin it however they want, but that's why they did that. They didn't get Rodgers yet, but they knew they were going to do everything they can to get him. And that's what happened. And like I said, I think if Rodgers is healthy, he's gonna cover up the problems that Jet fans may have with the coaching staff. And just the talent as a whole on the team. I mean, the defense is very good. You got stars up and down, from the front 7 to the secondary. Defense should still be good. They just need an offense that can produce, that can score points. That's been the problem. And with Rodgers coming back, they're going to have that. But I know it's a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of an ACL, Achilles injury. Is he still going to be effective? At his advanced age, yeah, it's hard to say, but I think he's motivated. He's going to do. I mean, he was going to try to come back last year. The Jets were still in it. I think he's going to come out and he's going to have a good year. And you could say, well, you're Mr. Positive over here. Yeah. But this is an all-time great. This isn't just some quarterback. This is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And his last full season with the Packers, it was not great. I understand that. But, and now, last year, torn Achilles, 4 plays into the year. So, yeah, you would look at that and say, what makes us think that he's going to be good? He tore his Achilles coming off of a mediocre year. Now, we're in 2024. This is now 2 years later, after the mediocre year with the Packers. His final year with the Packers. Yeah, I mean, all signs point to he's not going to be good. But does he have to be spectacular? Because the Jets have a solid running game. You got a really good defense. The way the Jets quarterback play has been for a long time, the Jets don't need him to be, like I said earlier, they don't need him to be the back-to-back MVP. They don't need him to be that. They just need a guy that can move the ball, score points, just generate some kind of offense. And if they could do that, and limit the turnovers, of course, they could do that, they're going to win games. Now, it's hard to say what Rodgers is going to do until he actually goes out there and starts playing. Really, again, I've said this on previous shows. The 2 highlights that we really have of Rodgers is when he threw the touchdown to Garrett Wilson in the preseason game against the Giants, and him running out with the American flag before the first game. That's his Jets career. That's his Jets highlights right there. Is those 2 things. And hopefully we have plenty more of those to add in 2024. But it's a process. And he's heading in the right direction with his rehab. He's going to be ready to go with no restrictions. And then you go from there. Now, when games start, every time Rodgers is going to drop back, Jet fans are going to be covering their eyes because, if you see him getting rushed, he takes it one hit. I mean, you're hoping that he gets back up, but he's going to take hits. But again, we just got to see how he's going to be when games actually start. Because we have no idea. Right now it's we're still in the off season. Practice. You're not going to get a full idea of how he's going to be until we get to September. And like I said, I'm hoping for the best. I said I'm going to be optimistic and say the Jets are going to have a good year. Rodgers is going to be good. Not going to be MVP Aaron Rodgers, but I think he'll be good enough that the Jets will make the playoffs, and you go from there. Because last week I said that defense, that gave a lot of quarterbacks problems last year. And you got an offense that actually can move the ball. Yeah, they could definitely beat these teams. So, again, you could look at me as being too optimistic, but That's what I'm going to be. That's the stance I'm taking. I want to see Aaron Rodgers go out on a high note and have one more solid year at least. Take the Jets as far as he can. Maybe play the Chiefs in a championship game or divisional round, whatever, and go down swinging if, they end up getting knocked off. I don't want to see him, walking off the field after, losing to the Dolphins in Week 18, and the Dolphins knock him out of playoff contention. I want to see him go out there, have a good year, make the playoffs, and have a good playoffs. And if he gets knocked out early, then so be it. But at least he gave the Jets a chance. And I'm not a Jet fan. But I just want to see him go out there and play well because, again, he was one of my favorite players growing up. And this is just on the field. This is not what you may have seen, him making headlines off the field. Making appearances on podcasts and stuff and things that have happened with him. This is just purely football. Nothing else. He's one of my favorite players growing up. He's an all-time great. And I want to see him go out on a high note, if this is it. But he wants to play multiple years. That's his intention. But if everything goes well, so I'm hoping for the best. But again, positive news on this front, and we'll see where they go from here. But you're hoping it's only up. And, the Jets, like I said, they prioritize the offensive line. Got a good running game with Breece Hall. You drafted a receiver. You signed one to pair up with Garrett Wilson. Got the defense. So, this team should be good. And I think they will be. But let me know what you guys think about the Rodgers stuff. How do you guys think he is going to perform in 2024? So before we go into our next break, just want to remind you guys once again, and before I do that, just have to switch some things up here. All right, here we go. So, like I've been saying, reminding you guys again, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we're going to talk about a couple things regarding some future Hall of Famers in Aaron Donald and J.J.Watt. The possibility of them maybe coming back at some point in 2024. And I'll talk about the realistic chance that can happen. So that's what we'll do when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some speculations regarding some comebacks with two future Hall of Famers in Aaron Donald and J.J.Watt. So J.J.Watt, 2023 was his first full year retired. He's become an analyst now with CBS. And, makes appearances on the Pat McAfee show as well. And with Aaron Donald, he recently retired. But, there's a possibility, slim chance that maybe, well, more so with J.J. Watt, with what he had to say recently. But there's maybe a small chance that maybe at least one of these guys could come back late in the season for their respective teams. Now, Aaron Donald played his full career his entire career with the Rams. J.J. Watt was with the Texans his whole career pretty much, but then spent some time with the Cardinals as well. So I wanted to get into Aaron Donald first because their general manager, Les Snead, he had some comments on Aaron Donald possibly coming back if the Rams go on another Super Bowl run. So this is what he said. This was recently on the Rich Eisen show. So he said, I did mention to Aaron that going back to our Super Bowl run, that there was a player by the name of Eric Weddle who kind of jumped into the playoffs and we signed him to the practice squad. And we standard elevated him for 4 straight games to a Super Bowl championship. So I did mention if we happen to get to the playoffs again, maybe we'll circle back and see if the cup's not quite filled, but that's just a rumor. I doubt Aaron's going to do that. So already he shut that down. But he also said Aaron's one of those guys where he's so principled, he might feel uncomfortable that, you know what, I didn't go through those other 18 games with the guys. I'm not sure I can go through the playoffs with them. Not sure we might tempt him. No breaking news here. So that's what he had to say on Aaron Donald. Because, yeah, they did do that with Eric Weddle, and Eric Weddle spent some time with the Rams. He was with the Chargers, he was with the Ravens, but was with the Rams, retired. Then they had him come back for the playoffs because they were dealing with some injuries in their secondary. And he ended up playing just in the playoffs and won a championship and then retired. So they could do that with Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald has a Super Bowl ring. So if he comes back, it's just to, try to add to the hardware and win another one. But even Snead said probably not going to happen. But you never know. And Aaron Donald is probably still going to be staying in shape. I mean, he might not be in game shape, but he's going to be in shape. So if the Rams let him know ahead of time, like, hey, are you interested? I mean, I think the Rams are going to be a playoff team, or at least going to be a team that's, in the mix. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, so and losing Aaron Donald that's big. That's the anchor of your defense. And they addressed, the defensive side of the ball in the draft. And they're hoping that, they could at least get some production there without Aaron Donald, which they probably will. I mean, the Rams with Sean McVay, they'll figure it out. I mean, the offense is going to be good. But the defense, that was kind of the problem. I think that's... And it wasn't on Aaron Donald. It's just the defense. It wasn't like it was when they made it to the Super Bowl. They got to revamp it. And I think if the defense was better, I mean, the Rams, they only lost to the Lions by a point. They could have upset them. That was one of the best playoff games from last year. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. But if the Rams are going to the playoffs, I think there will be at least a conversation with Aaron Donald on, hey, you want to come back and we try to win another one? We'll see. But that's at least on the Aaron Donald front. So with him, with Snead bringing that up in the interview and saying it's probably not going to happen, probably won't happen, but I think there at least will be a conversation. Now with J.J. Watt, not saying that it will happen, but it's more likely that he would come back as opposed to Aaron Donald. So J.J. Watt, like I said, played for the Texans most of his career. Could have won an MVP back in 2014, but Aaron Rodgers won that. But many people said J.J. Watt should have won it. Also played with the Cardinals. He did say that if the Texans absolutely need him, he'll come back. He told D'Amico Ryans, their head coach, that he would be available if necessary, but emphasized that Ryans knows not to call unless it's truly essential. And the Texans did make a lot of moves this offseason. On the defensive side of the ball, they signed some guys on the defensive line, Danico Autry, Daniel Hunter, over from the Vikings. You still got Will Anderson Jr., who, was their rookie edge rusher who had a great season. So, yeah, unless injuries happen, J.J.Watt probably not coming back. But he at least has left the door open if they absolutely need him. So this is what he said. I've had 12 great years in this league, and I'm very thankful to have walked away healthy and playing great. I told D'Amico last year, I said, don't call unless you absolutely need it. But if you ever do call, I'll be there. And he knows not to call unless he absolutely needs it. This is the last year I'll tell him that because I'm not going to keep training the way I've been training. But he knows that if he ever truly does need it, I'll be there for him. I don't anticipate that happening. They've got a very good group. I mean, listen, I would love to see J.J. Watt come back and, go on a Super Bowl run with the Texans because they never really did with him. You had Deshaun Watson, and you made it to the divisional round. You're up 24-0 to the Chiefs, and they unfortunately blew that lead. They had a chance to play in the championship game, and that did not happen. And there was, at the quarterback position, you had Matt Schaub, and they had to start, and he got hurt a couple times. So you had T.J. Yates starting playoff games. Brock Osweiler, they gave him a lot of money, and they got to the divisional round and lost to the Patriots. And then, he goes to the Cardinals. They make the playoffs, but they got bounced out by the Rams. J.J. Watt never really got past the divisional round. There was never really a deep playoff run with him and the Texans, and it didn't happen with the Cardinals either. And with this team right now, the way the Texans are, I'm expecting big things out of them. That's another team that I really like what they've done this offseason, and I feel like they can make a run. And, we'll see how they match up now with the Ravens and the Chiefs. We'll see all that this upcoming year. But, they got to go out there and show it. Now, with what J.J. Watt had to say, see, it's a little different when talking about the comebacks of both of these guys because you're hearing it when talking about Aaron Donald. You're hearing it from the general manager's perspective of the Rams, as opposed to Aaron Donald directly saying, hey, I could come back if you need me. J.J. Watt's saying that. This is coming directly from J.J. Watt. But like he said, if there's a lot of injuries on the defensive line and they absolutely need help, he'll come back. So him coming back would be great, but it would be at the expense of, the Texans have a ton of injuries and they're desperate. They need somebody. So, but, yeah, I mean, like I said, I would like to see J.J. Watt come back and, he helps the Texans get to the Super Bowl and they win it and he goes out with the Super Bowl ring. That would be nice because he's a player that does deserve a ring. But, again, it's not going to happen. And it's unfortunate because you see players, that they go their entire career, they have solid careers, and then they end up retiring. And it's like that across all sports. That player deserves a ring, and that player deserves a ring. But sometimes that player doesn't always get it. I mean, Dan Marino, that's one example. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. I mean, as a Yankee fan, I didn't watch a single second of his career, but Don Mattingly. Yankee fans love Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly doesn't have a World Series. It's unfortunate, but it's just that's what happens. And how many times does Shaquille O'Neal bother Charles Barkley about not having a ring? It's just that there's a lot of like I said, all across sports. There are many players that don't win championships. And that's why it's really special when you do win a championship. Michael Strahan, he won his only Super Bowl, and it was the year he retired. He decided to retire. And it came against the Patriots. Also, I don't know if I'll talk about this, but I did watch a little bit of that Tom Brady roast last night. Because now I just thought of, when I brought up Strahan and beating the Patriots. I may or may not talk about it. I mean, but I'll say this, though. Ton of cursing. Every other word was a curse word. It was geez. But Yeah, did watch a little bit of that. It was interesting. I mean, some parts were funny, others were like, yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. But anyways, yeah, Tom Brady, talk about, players that got rings, But anyways, yeah, it's just it's unfortunate when you have great players that deserve rings, they don't get it. But that's just how it is, Like Aaron Donald, he has a Super Bowl ring. And he even said that he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish. So he's good. Now, does that mean that the Rams are not going to reach out to him when, they're making a playoff push and, they got a chance to do something this year? They're going to reach out. Like I said, I think there'll be a conversation that will be had. But I think it's more likely that you would see a J.J.Watt comeback as opposed to an Aaron Donald comeback, because J.J.Watt directly said, hey, if they need me, I'll be there. That's kind of like what, for Marvel fans, that's like what, Captain America says at the end of Civil War to Iron Man in the note that he gives him. If you need me, I'll be there. So that's immediately what I thought of when J.J. Watt said that. I think that's the first time I ever brought up any Marvel stuff on the show. But yeah, that's what I thought of for some reason. I don't know, but yeah, like I said, a J.J. Watt comeback may be more likely, but it would be at the expense of guys being hurt on the defensive line for the Texans. So. And I think J.J. Watt, he's happy with what he's doing. Is going to be part of, NFL Today with all those guys, with Matt Ryan being added to that. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because it was funny how both of these stories came up around the same time. So. But let me know what you guys think. Who's more likely to come out of retirement? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley, talking about contract negotiations or lack thereof with the Giants, how there really wasn't any negotiations there. And, that will end off the show for today. So with that being said, stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley and him kind of, going at people on Twitter about, him leaving the Giants and going to the Eagles. So more of that has been happening. And it's just, as a Giant fan, it's like enough already. Who cares? Now, I'm taking a different stance on it as opposed to other Giant fans. Like, other Giant fans are just really upset that Barkley left. And I said when he signed with the Eagles, yeah, it stings a little bit because it's a division rival. But they're the ones that gave him a big contract. He's familiar with the area. That's where he went. I don't think he didn't go to stick it to the Giants. Now, I think what Giant fans are doing by constantly engaging in these feuds with him on social media, you're adding more fuel to the fire, and Barkley's going to want to go out there and stick it to the Giants next year. Now, I think he does kind of want to do that because they didn't really offer him a contract, and they prioritized paying the quarterback and Daniel Jones over him. So I think there is a little bit there. But I think you're only adding more fuel to the fire by constantly coming after him on social media. Because that first game at MetLife Stadium, when the Eagles come in to take on the Giants, Giant fans are going to be booing him like crazy. And he's going to want to go out there and rush for 200 yards and, have multiple touchdowns. So this is what Barkley said on X, on Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's been 2 months. LOL, no way you could still be this mad. I can't now. He said something I can't say, but can't even go to a basketball game. Because a fan said, you bailed on New York. Sow the wind. Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. And he said, let me educate some of you fans here. I can't bail or become a traitor if I never got an offer to come back. So I went to the organization. I felt that was the best. And after already being here for a month, man, I'm excited to be an Eagle. Go Birds. Side note, that game was crazy. Oh, this is the basketball game. Never mind. He was talking about the Knicks 76ers game. So that was interesting. So he didn't even get an offer. That's what he's saying. Yeah. I never got an offer to come back. And if that's the case, I think it's a little disrespectful to Barkley. Just a little bit. But you could also look at it as, well, Joe Shane didn't draft him. Now, they like Saquon Barkley, but they didn't like him enough where they were going to, give him a big contract and bring him back. I think what the Giants did was a smart thing. Because Barkley, he was productive when he played, but he got hurt a lot. And he's getting older. Now, I think he's going to have a great year with the Eagles, with their offensive line and the offense that now, he's in a loaded offense now. And you know what? I think he deserves to go to a team that can, that can win. The Giants, yeah, they won in 2022. They won a playoff game, but, you got to the how good were the Giants really? Because then they got to the second round. They played the Eagles, and the Eagles stomped them. Now he's going to a team with a good offensive line, weapons all over the place, a team that's looking to, get back on track because, the collapse they had towards the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, how could you blame Barkley? They gave him a big contract. It just so happened that, unfortunately, it was within the Giants division. But that's just how it is in sports. When you have players that go from one team to their rival, yeah, you're going to have fans that are going to react to that. And many fans loved Saquon Barkley, was their favorite player. See his jersey all over the place. And then he says, all right, I'm going to go to the Eagles. And they're like, you betrayed us. I mean, that's why you had the whole thing with Tiki Barber on the radio. The little feud between him and Barkley. When Tiki was on his radio show saying, that he'd be dead to him if he went to the Eagles. And that's exactly what he did. And what's funny is, if the Cowboys had more cap space, they probably could have went after Saquon Barkley too, because they needed a running back. So it was either going to be the Eagles or the Texans were in the mix, which I think, if he went to the Texans, that would have been, I would have been completely okay with that. Yeah, I'm not okay with him going to the Eagles, but I'm not like one of these Giant fans that's hating on Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley went to a team that offered him a massive contract. Giants not only didn't offer him a big contract, they didn't offer him a contract, period, according to him. According to him. Now, this is what he's saying. So, Yeah, it's tough. It's tough on Giant fans because you like the player, but it's just at this point, and he goes to a rival, a rival. But at this point, guys, come on. It's May 6th. We're getting into the summer, and then before you know it, the season's going to start. Get over it. Now, when you go, Giant fans, if you go to the game, you could boo him all you want. But, I mean, come on. The guy's just at a basketball game. A great game, by the way. And game 1 of the semifinals in the Eastern Conference starts tonight between the Knicks and the Pacers. I mean, the guy's just trying to live his life. But this is the negative of social media. Because it's just, we live in this world now where it's just, you see everything. Everything's on camera. Cameras all over the place, and people posting videos. Up there's Saquon at the Knicks game, at the Knicks 76ers game, and then you got all these Giant fans just flooding his, timeline, just like, oh yeah, you're a traitor, more of that. And he's like, it's been 2 months, and we're still not over it. The Giants are heading in the right direction, I think. Focus on your team. Because, yeah, the backfield is going to be different without him. Although Devin Singletary, they wasted no time. They gave him 26. That's your new running back. You got him. They drafted one. And on the defensive side of the ball, well, first of all, they did draft Malik Neighbors, arguably, if not the second best wide receiver in the draft. So you got him. You look at what they did on defense, and they traded for Brian Burns. The defensive line, something to really be looking forward to in 2024. Him getting paired up with Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. Look towards that. Stop worrying about Barkley. He's not here anymore. He's gone. Focus on the team that you currently have. Now, is Barkley going to do well against the Giants? I anticipate he's going to have 2 very good games against the Giants. Because he's going to be running behind a good offensive line. And you know what? That's going to... I think a positive to it, it's also going to add more fuel to this... Well, I mean, you could say rivalry, but it's kind of been one-sided a lot recently. Really, when it comes to the Eagles and Dallas, it's been one-sided. I mean, how many times have I brought up on the show, the last time the Giants have won in Philadelphia was 2013. That was the last time they won in Philadelphia. I was in middle school. At least last year, the final week of the season, I know they took their starters out, but when they were still in, the Giants really beat up on the Eagles. So, hopefully the Giants can turn it around, and they could at least be competitive. Like, they beat the Eagles. Can they go out there and finally beat Dallas? Because the last time they beat Dallas in Dallas was 2016, which was Dak's rookie season. And I think the last time they beat Dallas was the COVID season, final week of the regular season, with Andy Dalton as the starting quarterback. I mean, look, I don't anticipate the Giants beating Dallas or beating the Eagles. I think right now, there's your 4 losses right there. But, again, we're only in May, so, already talking about, but it's just that I could see it, especially with Dallas, because they just cannot beat Dallas. But with the Eagles, it's going to be fun, these 2 games against Saquon Barkley. And I think Giant fans are really, adding more to this fire. Because Saquon Barkley is really going to want to go out there and just dominate against the Giants. think he still had a little bit of it, but now I think he really does want to stick it to the Giants. Because the fans, all they do is just, they've been coming after him. Just for signing with another team. But who is that other team? The Philadelphia Eagles. So, I get it. But you know what? We got to move on now. Let's move on. Focus on like I said, focus on the team that they have right now. I know there's some issues at the quarterback position, and that's kind of a big deal because it's the biggest part of the offense. It's the most important position. But there's things that you have to be encouraged by as a Giant fan. And focusing on Saquon Barkley and him signing with the Eagles and him just trying to enjoy his life and go to a basketball game, which is supposed to be an innocent thing, he can't even do that without people coming after him on Twitter. And, yeah, I'm a Giant fan. And some Giant fans that watch this, they may be like, how could you defend him? I'm like, I get it. You're upset. But he's not here anymore. He's with a different team. That's why I'm defending him. Because I think the guy should also be able to, go out in public and not have to worry about people coming after him on social media for something that happened 2 months ago. And here's the other thing. They did win a playoff game. But what else did the Giants do during Barkley's tenure with the Giants? Other than that 1 year. What else did they do? Unfortunately for them, and this is not his fault. Giants did a lot of losing. There were a lot of bad years with Saquon Barkley and his time with the Giants. Not his fault. There's only so much he can do. But Giants really didn't do a lot of winning. So, yeah, you could get mad at him, you could get on him, but Saquon Barkley was a part of a lot of bad years. So, it's time to turn the page. Can we do that? I don't know. But people are always going to be mad, and when the Eagles play the Giants next season, yeah, I'm especially looking forward to the game at MetLife Stadium because it could be a Monday night game, could be a Thursday night game. It's not gonna be Sunday night. Giants are definitely banned from Sunday Night Football after the games that we saw, especially the 40-0 loss to Dallas. Yeah, they will not be making an appearance on Sunday Night Football. So, but we'll see. But let me know what you guys think about the whole Barkley situation. Again, I know it hurts that he went to a division rival, but again, he did that because they offered him a contract, and the Giants didn't. And even if the Giants did, they were not going to offer what the Eagles offered him. So, but yeah, that's just that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the whole thing with Barkley, and how do you guys see him perform with the Eagles? I mean, I think he's going to do well. So, but yeah, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to tune into our other shows as well. Like I said, you're going to see some new faces over the next couple of weeks. A soccer podcast, golf podcast, hockey podcast, women's sports podcast as well. So a lot of stuff coming up, or a lot of new faces that you'll be seeing. Make sure to tune into the other shows that I always bring up. Obviously, basketball playoffs are continuing, so make sure to tune into Nelson's show to get his perspective on stuff that's going on in the NBA playoffs. And of course, like I said, tune into the other shows as well. Give the other shows some love. So, with that is all the time that we have for today. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go.
I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.